Welcome to my channel. This is another time-lapse portrait. This is a painting of what I'm calling a sad clown, though I don't know if she looks all that sad in the photograph when you see her. This was inspired by a video I saw that was talking about clown paintings from some of the old masters, namely Matechko and Velasquez. And I thought I wanted to take on doing a clown series, but in a contemporary way. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but I wanted to talk a little bit now about, as you see, I'm doing a drawing, and I'm doing two things here. I'm doing what I normally would do, which is standing about 8 foot back and using my pencil to sort of measure heights, and I'm making a mark, but I'm also then using calipers to double check. And I do this sometimes just to sort of keep myself honest. And oftentimes what I'll do is I'll make these marks and they'll be wrong, and I'll just double check from a distance and correct them that way. And here I'm using angles to find the widths, and again double checking with the calipers. And some of the time my marks are dead on and I'm fine, and some of the time they're off by maybe say the width of the pencil, and I have to make an adjustment. And it's just a good thing for me to do once in a while to keep myself honest and to continue to develop my eye. But mostly this is a lot of freehand drawing. And the double checking I would do if I weren't using calipers is similar to what you see people do, where they hold a pencil up and they sort of move their thumb and they'll measure like the length of the nose or something, and then they'll use the nose as a way to discover the rest of the measurements. Well, I do that to double check my heights, and then I'll use those same units, like a width of a nose or an eye, and I'll double check the marks that I made using angles. It's something that is a good practice to get into, and it helps me move very quickly normally, especially with a live model. And by the way, you can totally use calipers with a live model too, although I don't know if they would enjoy it so much. This subject matter, as I was talking about earlier, was kind of inspired by this YouTube video I saw. It talked a lot about Velasquez and a little bit about Matechko and the clowns that they painted, and they didn't call them clowns at the time. They were called like jesters and buffoons, but in modern parlance they were clowns. And the way they painted them, and Matechko was many years after Velasquez, and I think suffered some criticism for his style being very similar to the kind of old masters relative to his time. A lot of chiaroscuro, really just beautiful work, and I'm very inspired by that. But the thing that really struck me more than the lighting, which was great, was their depiction of these clowns or buffoons or jesters in a way that wasn't at all silly or humorous. It was very serious and somber in many cases. I was really moved by that. And when I was looking for subjects to start a series on clowns, this was the first subject I found where, looks like a modern day clown dressed in some sort of slightly tattered clothes, hair is a mess, makeup is coming off, looks like she had a rough day. But it's a very honest kind of look and very candid kind of a photograph. When I think back to the times of like Matechko and Velasquez, they posed their models. They didn't have an opportunity to take a candid photograph, but I still think the honesty shows up in their work, which is something that was very moving for me and I wanted to try and capture here. The lighting here does not resemble those masterworks. This is very brightly lit. It's very evenly lit, quite challenging. This is not alla prima. I did, I think, 2 different sittings for this, and it would have been difficult for me to work very quickly with this level of even lighting and get the subtlety I think necessary to create form in a way that would have been achieve my goals here. So this is a couple of different sittings. I did additional clown paintings, and the series is available on my Instagram, and I'll give you some details about that at the end of the video. And the other paintings I did, I leaned very heavily into chiaroscuro. So there's a lot of dramatic lighting in those, but not in this one. And you can see that I'm painting, and it looks like I'm painting very quickly, but there's a lot of time of me stopping and thinking and mixing paint, and I have popsicle sticks that I do little paint tests on to check to see if my paint looks the way it's supposed to. And I was struck by how similar this was to painting flesh tones without the makeup. A lot of artists will talk about the difficulty or anxiety around getting the color of flesh correctly, and there's a lot of videos just dealing with that on YouTube and in books and so forth. Some of the things that are unique about flesh is there's a lot of color variation you can find in flesh, but basically you're just painting the effects of light, and you can always choose to simplify someone's skin to not have as much variation as you see in life. And for this, because there was, I think, less color variation because of the makeup, there was still plenty of variation. So it wasn't that much simpler to deal with basically a monochrome tone. And it wasn't really monochrome either, because there's got, red lips and a red nose and the blue sort of harlequin eye makeup. So it was just as challenging, which I think was kind of instructive for me. And, I've always sort of considered flesh no different than painting, a sphere or elements of a still life, just because it's just color. But there is some unique aspects as to how color varies across, the planes of the face and the way flesh changes and things. And I found that this was not that different. So that was really interesting for me to go through. And that was true throughout the series as I was painting. If you take a look at my Instagram, you see some of the other subjects I painted where it's very similar makeup. And, trying to get the clothing right, I was trying to have as much fidelity to the subjects as I could. But as I'm seeing now, and you may notice, I did not get the makeup around the mouth right. It doesn't wrap the face as well as it does in the photograph, which makes it look more of a straight-on look rather than what I believe is the case where the model is slightly tilting her head down. And this is the final painting. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please click like. Please subscribe to my channel. And my website is robertosuzuki.art. My Instagram is roberto_suzuki_art. And Facebook is fb.com/robertosuzukiart. Thank you.